I'd like to begin this video by sharing a tweet that God of War creative director Cory Barlog posted. This was all the way back in November 29th, 2017, soon after EA's Blake Jorgensen went on record to say that people don't like linear games like they did before. In response, Cory Barlog had this to say: from article about EA executive commenting on Visceral game. As we kept reviewing the game, it continued to look like a much more linear game, which people don't like as much as they did 5 years ago or 10 years ago, Jorgensen said. Oh dear God, EA, just utter nonsense. Facepalm. This was of course coming from someone who was very much working on one of those single-player and/or linear games that EA seems so intent on writing off. Fast forward to a few months later and the reviews for God of War started pouring in, and the game was received with nothing but acclaim left and right, eventually averaging at a 94% on Metacritic. Even the user score remained quite favorable, currently averaging at 92%, and if you're familiar with Metacritic, then you'll know how fickle the user score can be. Now, the real test was going to be how well the game sold. It doesn't matter how much a game is praised if it ends up selling poorly. After all, at the end of the day, game companies are businesses and they need to make some money to thrive and continue working on new projects. Fortunately, it's recently come to my attention that God of War sold incredibly well. The following information comes from the official PlayStation blog website, which recently published an article detailing some sales figures for God of War. The headline says it all: God of War sells over 3.1 million units in 3 days, becomes the fastest selling PS4 exclusive. So between April 20th and April 22nd, 2018, the title sold about 1 million copies a day. The runner-ups aren't even close, by the way, with website Forbes pointing out how, in comparison, Uncharted 4 sold 2.7 million units in a week and Horizon Zero Dawn sold 2.6 million units in 2 weeks. Now, as of the publishing of this video, it's been close to 2 weeks since God of War's launch, so that sales figure is bound to have increased significantly by now. Also keep in mind that Uncharted 4 managed to sell 9 million copies in its entire run, so if God of War already sold 3 million units, it's certainly safe to expect that it will sell well beyond the 10 million units mark in its lifespan. The blog post also features a personal message from Santa Monica studio head Shannon Studstill, who responded to the news with the following: I would like to personally thank the millions of fans around the world who decided to embark on Kratos' latest adventure with us. Your support is truly inspiring, and it's a reason why we push ourselves every day to go beyond the boundaries of play. I'd also like to thank our creative director, Cory Barlog, and director of product development, Yumi Yang, and our entire amazing team at Santa Monica Studio. The belief in the game's vision and the passion for storytelling across the team is undeniable. We look forward to hearing more about how fans are creating new memories of their favorite God of War gameplay moments that will be remembered for a long time. I couldn't agree more with the bit about how the belief in the game's vision and the passion for storytelling was undeniable. This is one of those success stories that warms my heart because it came from a place of genuine struggle, integrity, and passion. In case you don't know, God of War took 5 years to make, and Cory Barlog hasn't been secretive about what a struggle it was to bring this game to life. He even posted an emotional video in which he reacted to review scores the second they went up, and you could almost see the weight on his shoulders being lifted in cathartic fashion. What matters is that ultimately it all paid off triumphantly. The game turned out to be excellent, one of my personal favorite games of all time. It has become the fastest selling exclusive on the popular platform by a vast margin, and this is a game that genuinely deserves its success. It doesn't try to pull anything, there's no trickery involved here, it is just a really kick-ass game that is near universally loved. I believe that the combination of Cory Barlog and team's perseverance and unyielding devotion to their vision, as well as Sony's reservation from interfering through forceful implementation of scummy practices for the sake of monetization, all came together to forge this path. And here's the thing, God of War could have easily implemented some form of microtransactions. With how the game features crafting materials, armor pieces, upgrades, and skill trees, it could have easily implemented something like Assassin's Creed Origins time saver packs that allow players to pay for in-game currency, crafting materials, ability points, treasure locations, and whatnot. But Sony and Santa Monica resisted such urges and simply focused on delivering a game with its integrity fully kept intact, and the results speak for themselves. To all greedy game publishers out there who keep trying to sell the notion that single-player games are dying, take a long hard look at games like God of War, then look at gamers straight in the eye and tell us to our faces that single-player games are dying with a straight face. Look at the reception the game has garnered and tell us that we don't enjoy single-player games like we used to 5 or 10 years ago. In the words of Cory Barlog, oh dear God, EA, just utter nonsense. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether a game is single-player, multiplayer, live service, or whatever. If you give consumers a product that's compelling and high quality, if you give us something we want without trying to swindle us, we'll buy it and we'll be happy. It's really that simple. Will God of War make as much money as the likes of Battlefront 2, Destiny 2, Call of Duty, World War II, and all these other games featuring microtransactions and loot boxes? Probably not. God of War may not end up making all the money in the world due to the fact that it's not infinitely monetizable, but it will certainly make a lot of money for Sony and all parties involved, all while retaining goodwill from consumers and the reputation of the publisher, the developer, and the God of War franchise as a whole. Thinking long-term, there is no better result than that. Now, for some of you, it may seem a little silly that I keep bringing up EA and similar publishers whenever I talk about sales figures of single-player titles, but in an era in which they're trying to instill this idea and fear that single-player games are no longer viable to excuse their scummy practices, in an era where we are seeing articles with headlines stating that AAA single-player games are dying, it is important to keep proving this nonsensical notion wrong. It is important to keep emphasizing that game developers and publishers can thrive through single-player experiences, that you don't have to resort to scummy monetization tactics to survive in the industry, that it's just a matter of releasing captivating high-quality products. The last thing that I want is for future game developers to be afraid of making single-player games because they were falsely led to believe that they're a relic of the past, that we don't want them anymore, or to believe that microtransactions are the way of the future. Fortunately, we've got games like God of War, among many others, to show the gaming industry how it's done. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy my content, consider supporting me on Patreon. It is completely optional, but donating even as little as $1 a month will go a long way in helping maintain this channel. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out!